contractors with a BBB A+ rating. Call All American Roofing today at 405-787-0400. All American Roofing, the best roofing company in Oklahoma. 405-787-0400.
Hi Norman, it's DJ Newsom with Alliance Bank, your community-driven, friendly neighborhood bank. Whether you're a budding entrepreneur, lead a nonprofit organization, or just someone seeking a better banking experience, we've got you covered. From business to personal banking, we tailor our services to suit everyone's needs. We believe in making banking easy and enjoyable. Visit our Norman location or call us today at 405-286-5750. Alliance Bank, banking tailored to your needs. Member FDIC.
Snakes, zombies, sharks, heights, speaking in public. The list of fears is endless. But while you're clutching your blanket in the dark, wondering if that sound in the hall was actually a footstep, the real danger is in your hand, when you're behind the wheel. And while you might think a great white shark is scary, what's really terrifying and even deadly is distracted driving. Eyes forward, don't drive distracted. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Okay, antibodies, huddle up. We're a great team, but the flu is dominating. The good news is the human we're protecting just got his flu shots. That means all of us antibodies have strong new gear that will help us fight and defend against the flu. We must win so that our human can stay healthy and help protect the people he cares about most.
Let's work as a team to defend against the flu. Gear up with a flu shot to help protect yourself and others and reduce your risk of being sick or hospitalized with the flu. Learn more at getmyflushot.org. Brought to you by the AMA, CDC, and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and I dedicate a lot of my time going fast. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently or having trouble with routine tasks. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. Visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Live from the Buffalo Wild Wings studios, it's time to get locked into the best Sooner recruiting and football news with Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up.
Hit the guys up on the Riverwind Casino call-in line at 405-329-9000 or text the show on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439.
Do it! Just do it!
Now, with Locked In, here's Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
All right, let's get it rolling. Locked In on a Tuesday. Parker Thune, Grayson Singleton here with you in the Buffalo Wild Wings studios. The show brought to you by the great folks at Dorsey Jones Buick GMC. The Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line open to you at 405-651-3439. As our resident Oklahoma State football expert, Grayson, tell us all we need to know about Jeff Roberson.
2 days in a row, huh?
2 days in a row, man.
Jeff, first of all, before we get to Jeff, I have a question for you, Parker Thune. So I'm sitting in my office. I didn't catch the last part of you guys' show, but I'm following along on the text line.
Okay.
What the hell were y'all talking about at the end of the show?
Conspiracy theories and Greenland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Drones as well.
Beautiful.
It was I couldn't tell you how many different times the conversation veered to a completely unimaginable direction.
Oh, yeah. You got to embrace that, though. Now to Jeff Roberson. Fundamentally good player.
Okay, I'll take that.
Not a game changer. So just because you're going to see Oklahoma going for another linebacker, in this case Oklahoma State's Jeff Roberson, this isn't going to be a guy who could potentially supplant Kobe McKenzie or Sammy Omosigho or whoever they put in the inside linebacker position. That's not what's going on here.
Certainly.
We talked about it last week. Oklahoma right now has only 8 scholarship linebackers. They need more depth there. So this is going to be a depth piece, a rotational piece, but a rotational piece that you can stick into the lineup and be confident that he's going to give you something. Highly instinctual player. He always seems to be in the right spot when I watch him play.
I like that.
So, but a lot of what's positive about him is upstairs. He's not going to be a guy that blows you away with his speed. He's not going to be a guy that blows you away with his coverage ability. or anything like that. But a good, solid rotational player that's going to provide you a lot of depth at that inside linebacker position. That's where he would play in this scheme. He's a guy that went from special teams guy. By the way, that's the big part about him. He can be a really, really good special teams player for you, just because he's not going to be starting. So if Oklahoma is able to reel him in and get another Bedlam transfer, I guess it would be their third defensive Bedlam transfer in the last 3 years or so, along with Trace Ford and now Kendall Daniels, you're looking at a really good depth piece here. So I like where this is going. I like Jeff Roberson a lot in the right situation, and I think this would be it.
And here we go. It's already begun on the text line. Parker, have the OU coaches watched any film of last year's OSU defense? Jeez. Jeff Roberson, well, first and foremost, got to understand, he's a guy that would come to Oklahoma with just 1 year of eligibility. So it's not like you're making a long-term commitment to this guy.
Yes.
But you need experience in that linebacker room. That's the one thing, and we had this conversation last week on the air, you and I, Grace, and Oklahoma lacks that right now in the linebacker room. Losing Danny Stutzman, who, of course, was their bread and butter at that position. He was the foundational piece. Yeah, you have Kip Lewis back, but outside of Kip Lewis, there is nobody on that roster that has demonstrated that they're worthy of an incredible amount of trust. We've seen good things from Samuel Masigo. I love where he's headed, the trajectory that he's on. We've seen good things from Kobe McKenzie. He's had encouraging flashes. Jaron Kanek, who knows what you're going to get with Jaron Kanek. One of the most athletic dudes on any football field he steps on, no question about that. But you lack experience in that linebacker room right now. And a guy like Jeff Roberson, who's played 5 years of college football, who can make an impact on special teams, who can be a rotational contributor, and kind of like you were saying, just be in the right place at the right time for this defense. Man, how many times in the past 3 years has Oklahoma wound up on the wrong end of a bust defensively or allowed a chunk play, allowed a long touchdown, just because somebody is out of position?
Quite a few. That was their Achilles heel this year. That was the one spot where you could get Oklahoma defensively this year, was that they let up too many big plays. It wasn't like you were going to matriculate the ball down the field that consistently against Oklahoma. It was that you could burn them over the top a couple of times a game. And that's generally is what, allowed you to beat them.
On the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, 405-651-3439, Jackson Evans says, they fit in perfectly with the dumbing down of talent at OU. What does dumbing down of talent even mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Does that mean the players are stupid or the players are less talented? Maybe both. I'm not entirely clear. But thanks for tuning in, Jackson in Edmond, as always. Alex from Manford says, the bosses at KREF offered Grayson out of the portal and told him to bring some players with him. Grayson delivered.
I got you, Kendall Daniels. You're going to really like that one, I think.
Bo in Murray County says, when did Grayson get promoted to an intro? Well done. Yes, for those of you that are tuning in and are not up to speed with the recent changes, I say changes, there's been one change. Tyler McComas is scaling back, which if you've ever done 4 hours of radio, and I would imagine there are very few of you out there listening that have done 4 hours of radio, it's a lot. And Tyler McComas has done it every single day for, upwards of a decade now. He's moving back to 3 hours. He's just going to do the rush with Ted from 3 to 6 on these airwaves. And Grayson is now my running mate here on Locked In from 2 to 3. So if you're just now tuning in and you're wondering why you heard Grayson's voice on the intro instead of Tyler's, there you go. It's a new year. It's a new era for the show. So that is what's up with the show change for those of you that are asking on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Glenn from Nashville asks, will Roberson at least not take the wrong read and allow a 95-yard touchdown run by the quarterback? That's all I need to know.
Again, instinctual guy and a lot of experience. And this year in 2024, he was one of the starting inside linebackers for Oklahoma State. So you're not purging from, look, it was a horrible defense. We all know that. But you're not purging from the depth pieces of Oklahoma State, if that makes sense. You would be getting a guy who started every game for the Cowboys. So he played a lot of snaps. Hopefully he wouldn't make the wrong read in that situation. No guarantees, though, because we can't speak, like Parker has said, we cannot speak in definitives anymore.
Bowen Murray County says, Tyler's next step is to have Ted's hours.
Does that mean off on Wednesdays?
The Realist says, talking linebacker and roster limits, is Nesta on a football scholarship? And if so, do they move him to a baseball scholarship to open up a football one? I haven't considered that. That's interesting, especially because the scholarship limit for baseball recently increased, obviously. So might that be a way in which Oklahoma could open up an additional scholarship spot on the football side? I guess it could be, but to my understanding, James Nesta is on a football scholarship, him and Taylor Tatum both. Going to be interesting to see whether that flex happens at all with Nesta and or Tatum. People are still getting their jokes in at the expense of our drones and Greenland and conspiracy theories conversation at the end of the 1 o'clock hour.
Oh, my goodness.
Mojo Bo says, 2 to 3 was the best hour of radio. Tyler traded for this OSU lover? Okay, to be clear, not traded, reassigned, and 2 to 3 is still going to be the best hour of radio. Bet on that, Mojo Bo. We'll have a good time. We'll make sure y'all have a good time. Slim Brady says, since it's Grayson's first week as the official co-host,
oh no,
let's spark up the LeBron and Jordan debate again. No, we're not doing this, Slim Brady.
I'm going to keep my mouth shut on this one.
We're not doing this. Gunny of Stutzman Army says, Poke Willie gets to witness his first official crystal bong with a 28-gram crystal bong for Roberson to OU.
Okay, so as somebody who has never smoked weed in his life, I don't know if that's going to be something I want to start with.
And I, quite frankly, am not at all clear, Gunny, is 28 grams high confidence or low confidence? I have no idea where that falls on the spectrum of weed pipes. I would imagine that's high confidence, but let me know. There is much about the world of weed that I am I'm unfamiliar with.
Let me know about that, because I don't want to green out.
Here you go. A listener in Ohio says, if a player plays football in any other sport, the scholarship must come from football. Okay, there you go. Mike in Sand Springs says, Michael Jordan all the way. Stop talking about this. We're not talking Jordan LeBron. We'll save that for, June, when we have literally nothing else to talk about.
That's a May-June discussion there.
A 405 listener says, Oklahoma State is now the OU farm team. Kelly Maxwell.
Yeah.
Trace Ford.
Lexi Keys. Kendall Daniels.
Most recently, Kendall Daniels. Now Jeff Roberson. The Bedlam transfer portal, the intrastate transfer portal, is alive and well.
Wasn't OU in the mix for Brandon Garrison when he left Oklahoma State before he went to Kentucky?
That's true. That is true. They were. I don't think he was the only one.
He wasn't. I can't remember who the other one was linked to. That might be a Brody Lusk question.
That would definitely be a Brody Lusk question. We're going to have to get him on the air with us at some point in the days ahead, if we ever start to pivot from talking primarily football and football recruiting to OU hoops. However, OU's going to have to win a conference game before that happens. They've only had one shot so far, and they got throttled by Alabama down there in Tuscaloosa over the weekend.
Yeah.
They host Texas A&M tomorrow night, so the Sooners will get a chance to shake back on their home court against the Ags. Reformed Sooner points out Caleb Hicks and Gavin Freeman.
That is true.
Both wound up at Oklahoma State after spending time at OU.
As soon as Caleb Hicks posted that picture with him on the horse, I was like, yeah, he's going to Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm. Puerto Rican Sooner says, I will take no Poke Willie hate. He has great insight and has some great humor. Cosign, Puerto Rican Sooner. Cosign. Colin Claremore. If you would like to talk about drones, Cole, we can continue that conversation, certainly. I'll shoot you a text. CJ Sooner in Florida says, Grayson thinks LeBron is better than Jordan in the words of Stephen A. Stay off the weed!
Stephen A. was pretty much my main influencer in getting into the industry.
Really?
Yeah, when I was 13.
Okay, just don't become the next Stephen A.
No,
you're on the right track right now.
One of my mentors, he and I were on a phone call, and one of the things he told me, he said, Stephen A. Smith is an act that should never be tried to be duplicated.
That's pretty true. There's only one Stephen A. There will only ever be one Stephen A.
Yes, you should not try to emulate that.
Papa B in El Reno asks, can Andy Bass contribute in 2025? Well, looking at that running back room, first off, Andy Bass is on scholarship now at Oklahoma, so there's that. He has been promoted, if you will, and there's an expectation that, yeah, he's going to contribute in some capacity in 2025. Of course, you're bringing in Torrey Blaylock. He was their lone signee in the 2025 class. You lose Caleb Hicks to the transfer portal. Everybody else comes back. Gavin Sawchuk, Javonte Barnes, Sam Franklin, Xavier Robinson, Taylor Tatum. So crowded backfield. Going to be interesting to see how they manage it, Grayson, because as we've seen with DeMarco Murray in recent years, when he has one guy that is very obviously the lead back, that guy has a lot of success. When he has multiple dudes in the room that all have similar levels of talent and ability, things get weird as far as the balance between those guys.
I mean, just look at 2023. Nobody could figure. Not only could we not figure out what was going on back there, do you think DeMarco had a great handle of what was going on back there?
I don't know.
Because quite frankly, I don't.
I don't claim to be inside DeMarco Murray's head. We very seldom get the chance to talk with him. I think his last media availability was in fall camp in 2023, so it's been close to a year and a half. He's a guy that keeps to himself, but obviously played the position at a very high level, more than qualified for the position that he's in.
No
but
doubt.
Many have had their questions as to how he is running that room.
Because there never seemed to be any flow with the running back rotation. And did you find it weird that, unless I'm missing something, was Taylor Tatum hurt going into the bowl game?
Taylor Tatum was not hurt.
Okay.
Xavier Robinson was banged
right.
up.
I remember.
Yeah.
Yes, I know that. Taylor Tatum hardly played in the bowl game.
Yeah, well.
Which I found strange.
He's got to hold on to the ball, and that's going to be the thing that continues to hold him back from reaching his full potential.
Yeah.
Because it's all there otherwise for Taylor Tatum. There's no question that his game, the player that he's capable of being one of the absolute best running backs in the country, and he could have made a heck of a lot more of an impact for Oklahoma in 2024 than he actually did, but it was the fumbles.
Yeah.
It was the fumbles.
I did still find it weird he got no PT in the bowl game, though.
Yeah, I guess he played very sporadically. It was a good deal of I shouldn't say a lot of Gavin Sawchuk. It wasn't a lot of anybody, but good healthy dose of Gavin Sawchuk.
Mm-hmm.
We saw Sam Franklin very briefly.
Yeah.
Xavier Robinson played some snaps, but Michael Hawkins threw the ball 43 times in that bowl game.
Which was
also a very pass-first game plan that day for Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And certainly, you get in the fourth quarter and you're down a touchdown. At that point, you have to throw, but even so, 43 times. Offhand, I think that's the most Oklahoma threw the ball throughout the entirety of the 2024 season in any singular game.
And a lot of those passes were extensions of the run game, too. They weren't all, downfield. A lot of it was very horizontal.
Mm-hmm. 580 Nate says, DeMarco forever a legend for giving Muleshoe the business at the Fake Tears team meeting. Amen to that. If DeMarco Murray is remembered for nothing else as far as his coaching tenure at Oklahoma, he will be remembered for that. It was him and, of course, I don't know how it started getting around that Justin Broyles was the one that threw it back in Riley's face at that meeting, but no, it was DeMarco. It was DeMarco. Okay, we got to take an opening timeout. We'll come back, continue hitting your questions on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, talking OU football and recruiting here on The Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Stay right here.
Hornsdown Apple Pie Liquor is not your grandma's apple pie, unless your grandma was a moonshiner with a PhD in flavor. This all-natural, 6-time distilled spirit is sure to light up any party, tailgate, or special occasion. Whether toasting a touchdown or yelling at the Yums because Spike was safe, Hornsdown Apple Pie is the perfect drink for celebrating the highs and lows of life in Oklahoma. Hornsdown celebrates all of you who cheer from the berm, tailgate, on Lindsay Street, and wreak havoc on social media. You can find our red bottle at your local liquor store or search for your closest location at drinkhornsdown.com.
Case is full of the latest trends. We are known for our engagement rings and love giving our customers every option, straight from our cases or in their very own custom design, with natural diamonds, lab-grown diamonds, or colored gemstones. Shop with us in-store or shop our website or Instagram. Mitchell's Jewelry in the heart of Norman at 2201 West Main Street.
Coach Stoops here. Join me every week on The Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Monday morning at 7:45, I'll join the voice of the Sooners, Toby Rowland, and TJ Perry for the Stoops Review. We'll break down all the action from the weekend, and on Thursday afternoons at 4:45 with Teddy and Tyler on The Rush as we get you ready for the weekend slate. It's the best time of year, and you can find me exclusively on The Ref. Download the KREF app today so you listen from anywhere in the world.
Would you like to play a more active role in your health? At Hightower Clinical, we believe all Oklahomans should have access to new potential treatment options through clinical trial participation. Our team wants to support you with the best care possible through clinical trials. No health insurance is required. Compensation is available for eligible study participants, and study care is provided at no cost.
Having the chance to go through a trial and find out if something works for them and makes their life easier, I would recommend them do it.
To learn more, scan this QR code and visit our website.
Are you looking for a luxury apartment for rent in Norman? The Falls at Brookhaven offers stunning 2- and 3-bedroom spacious floor plans with large walk-in closets, washer and dryer hookup, and a fabulous kitchen in a well-maintained, calm environment. From plush carpet to sleek stainless steel appliances to a pool, 24-hour fitness, and 2 dog parks, the Falls at Brookhaven has it all. Call our locally owned and operated community at 405-701-8233 or go online to thefallsatbrookhaven.com for a free tour and see what living in luxury is like.
Hi everybody, Toby Rowland here. And are you and your family looking for a place to golf in 2025? The Trails Golf Club in Norman is perfect for you. The Trails give you the opportunity for you and your family to spend quality time together by playing golf, enjoying the pool in the summertime, along with many family fun-filled activities around holidays. Plus, one of the best restaurants in town. Now is the perfect time to join the Trails. Contact Zane Alexander today at 405-360-3790 or visit trailsgolf.com.
You say you'd never give in to a meltdown and never fill your feed with kid photos. You say you'd never put a pacifier in your mouth to clean it and never let them run wild through the grocery store. So when you say you'd never let them get into a car without you there, no, it can happen. 1 in 4 hot car deaths happen when a kid gets into an unlocked car and can't get out. Never happens. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Tired of your current living situation? Now is the best time to make a move. Interest rates are dropping and Home Creations is offering the best financing around with rates as low as 3.625%. This will save you hundreds per month on your brand new Home Creations home. Live like a champion today by calling Holly at 405-364-9999 for full details.
364-9999 Home Creations.
APR 6.508%.
Mike Steele here for Lasher Home Comfort Systems, your trusted home comfort experts in the Oklahoma City metro area. Tim Lasher and his team have more than 130 years of combined experience. They recognize a significant number of homeowners live with inadequate home comfort systems. They specialize in diagnosing your home system issues while providing more efficiency and reducing your utility costs. As an authorized dealer of American Standard, Tim can service your residence or business. Call Tim and his team at 405-579-3113. Lasher Home Comfort Systems.
It is locked in here on the Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Parker Thune, Grayson Singleton with you on a Tuesday afternoon. The Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line always available at 405-651-3439. They are listening internationally in the Netherlands, Sydney, Australia, Ontario, Canada, and Chihuahua, Mexico. They're listening across the country in Kalispell, Montana, Blackstone, Virginia, Wheeling, West Virginia, Tupelo, Mississippi, and they're listening across the state in such towns as Grove, Manford, Skiatook, and Salina. Our small town of the day, however, is Valiant, Oklahoma. Valiant? Somebody tell me. I'm not from here. At least not originally.
Somebody also tell me where that is.
Valiant. So I know where that is.
Really?
I don't know how to pronounce it. Down there by Durant.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so down there in the southeast portion of the state. I think it's like somewhere down between Durant and Idabel, if I recall correctly.
Okay.
But yeah, it's in that general vicinity. Valiant, Reliant. Someone correct me. Confirm for me what the correct pronunciation is. But the Ref Army Locator brought to you today and every day by Horns Down Apple Pie. Grayson, what do we think of this stuff?
Horns Down Apple Pie, 70 proof, and it certainly tastes that way. Tastes like an apple pie with some cinnamon, apple cinnamon. That's what it says on the label. And it'll make any party even that much more of a good time.
I'll read you directly from the bottle. Founders Dink and Addison grew up more like brothers than friends and come from a new breed of spirit makers where tradition meets innovation. They share a lifelong passion for sports, tailgating, and celebrating the culture of moonshiners. If it's enjoying a shot on game day, drinking an apple old-fashioned in the bar, or taking a sip of apple pie sitting around the campfire, we invite you to grab a bottle, create a new memory, and pour yourself a smile. Horns Down Apple Pie. Thank you, Dink and Addison, and your whole crew for your sponsorship of the Ref Army Locator. Let's turn back to the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Bowen Murray County confirming it is Valiant. Okay, I was right. My instinct was correct. It's not always correct. Because Oklahoma, you got some weird regional pronunciations across the state of Oklahoma.
Miami was the first one I learned.
Yeah, well, for instance, like, if you don't know any better, you would not guess that Chickasha is pronounced Chickasha.
Yep.
Didn't have to deal with Miami for the first couple of years because it's up there in the northeastern part of the state.
Right.
But Chickasha's right down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And you learn very quickly, oh, that doesn't sound like it looks.
You know who else doesn't sound like it looks?
Who's that?
Me. On the YouTube chat, this was actually Gunny on the YouTube chat. That's not what I expected Willie to look like.
What'd you expect, Gunny? I'd love to know.
I would love to know what you would expect me to look. And also, the second part to that question, now that you know what I look like, what did you expect me to sound like? I love playing this game with people.
You can do it because you're on the radio.
Well, I can. Also, this brings up so many stories for off air.
Oh boy!
But you can probably you could probably explain.
I think so.
Yeah, you probably know where this is going.
Via the YouTube chat, Michael Neal asks any DC update, PT. Well, as we talked about earlier this week, Oklahoma's big game hunting, much like they were with the offensive coordinator position. They are big game hunting at the defensive coordinator position. Nothing is imminent here, and nothing feels that way. Because the, what would you call it? The buck that Oklahoma's hunting, I don't know, how many points is like a big buck?
Oh, hunting has never been a part of my life, so don't ask me that. But I get where you're going.
Yes, that 15-point buck or whatever that Oklahoma is hunting. That's going to be a bit of a drawn-out process to see whether or not he winds up the hire. Now, if it doesn't happen, I would expect that Oklahoma would go and hire. If it's an external hire, I think it would be Wes Goodwin. Yep. But one way or another, I think your defensive play caller in 2025, if it's not this particular individual whom they're engaged with, that would be considered big game in the defensive coaching realm, if he's not your defensive play caller and he's not the hire, I think regardless of who the hire is at linebackers coach, Brent Venables is going to be the one calling the shots.
And I don't really love that idea.
Really? You don't? Because I do.
Okay.
I do love that.
There is reason to love it because of his history as a defensive play caller. I get a little bit concerned, and I'm a Broncos fan, so I saw this with Nathaniel Hackett a couple of years ago. I get concerned with coaches who have not shown a proficiency in managing the game that are also calling plays. Now, Brent Venables is nowhere close to as bad at game management as Nathaniel Hackett was. Nowhere, he's not in that neighborhood, but he isn't good at it. I think we have enough of a sample size to know that he's not particularly good at it yet. So if you're still learning that side of coaching, I don't love it. I don't hate it either, but I don't love that he's going to try to add play calling back to the equation.
Nathaniel Hackett was a terrible head coach.
He was horrible.
Maybe the worst NFL head coach of my lifetime. It's neck and neck between him and Urban Meyer. I mean, neck and neck. And is that 2022 that Hackett was very briefly the head coach for the Broncos? Or was
Correct.
Yeah, so Meyer in Jacksonville was 2021. Hackett was 2022. So we got to witness 2 absolute dumpster fires of NFL head coaching tenures back-to-back. So, yeah, that's never what you want. You don't want Nathaniel Hackett. You don't want to end up with a coach whose job and product start to resemble that. But as I see it, there is nobody in the country that's better at calling defensive plays than Brent Venables. I think here's the deal. If Brent Venables is going to call the defensive plays, he's going to have to lean on his assistants more. And it's going to put, I would say it'll put more strain on Ben Arbuckle as the offensive coordinator, right? Because Brent Venables, as he has discussed in press conferences throughout this past season, he's had a lot of oversight on the offensive side of the ball as well, right? Like he's spent time in the defensive meeting rooms, but he's also spent time in the offensive meeting rooms. He weighs in on both sides of the football. He oversees both sides of the football, especially if you're the one calling the defensive plays. You're not going to be able to have that same level. You're not going to be able to exercise that same level of oversight on the offensive side of the ball. And so you're going to have to trust that your OC and the staff on that side of the ball is entirely capable of holding down the fort without direct input from the head ball coach.
Yeah.
Ben Arbuckle's 29 years old, man. That's a lot to put on a coordinator that young and that relatively inexperienced. But if he's up for the challenge, I think this could work.
I think this could have worked. And you bringing up the offensive side of the ball is a really good point. I think if you wanted Venables to call plays defensively and still learn the oversight game, you know who would have been the perfect offensive coordinator for that equation? Dan Mullen.
Yep.
Now, Ben Arbuckle could prove us wrong. He could prove to not need the oversight of Brent Venables. And if he does, fantastic, if that's the direction they go with Brent calling the defense again. I just don't think he has shown enough in the oversight realm and the game management realm for us to be completely confident in him calling plays too.
Because game management's been a struggle. It's been a struggle from the jump, and you can argue it's gotten better. It hasn't gotten much better. It's gotten marginally better, perhaps. But there are still questions that exist from the fan side of things, and there are still missteps that have been taken as you look back at what year 3 was for Oklahoma that you would expect 3 years into this thing, okay, those things would have been corrected by now. And not all of them have been. And that, among many other things, is part of why we enter the 2025 season unsure of what Brent Venables' future looks like at Oklahoma. If there is a future beyond 2025, they have to win, as we've discussed. There is no two ways about it. You have to win. Alex from Manford says, Parker, I know you've said multiple times that it's a possibility, but you're not high on it happening. But could you see BV going after a guy like Jim Knowles to be the DC? I mean, look, Jim Knowles is obviously a big name in the coaching profession. I'm telling you, like, with this hire, or I should say potential hire, with this process, Oklahoma is big game hunting. So I'm not necessarily talking about, like, bringing an NFL defensive coordinator back in. But I would say that the individual in question is one of the top 10 most respected defensive minds in football. At the collegiate level, that is. We're not talking NFL ranks here.
Okay.
So, this is a guy that if Oklahoma were to finalize this hire and they were to bring him in and they were to agree to terms, it would be seismic. It would be front page news, not just in the Oklahoma market, but nationally. It would be a huge deal if Oklahoma were to pull this off. Can they do it, though? Because you were kind of sitting in a similar spot with Dan Mullen, and then the question becomes, regardless of how much interest the candidate has, regardless of how much interest the institution has, can you jump through all the requisite hoops to be able to get on the same page with the agent? Because agents, man, and we live in a world these days where everybody has an agent. Every coach has an agent, but that's always been the case. Every player has an agent now, too. And man, people in college football circles that have never had to deal with agents on this scale before, with this type of frequency, they're kind of worn out with all of it already.
And we talked about yesterday when it comes to roster construction about this new kind of stuff that you have to deal with.
Exactly. And so if push comes to shove and the agent's driving a really hard bargain, is Oklahoma going to do what it takes to get the deal done, or will there be a point at which they walk away? Because that point came with Dan Mullen, right? Those negotiations were happening. They were ongoing. There was mutual interest. There was a lot of belief that, okay, this is going to get done. And that his agent is Jimmy Sexton.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Jimmy Sexton is famously one of the most powerful agents and one of the most skilled agents in all of sports. And so at a certain point, Jimmy Sexton was asking for too much. And Oklahoma said, okay, look, we got this other guy we really, really like. We can hire him a whole heck of a lot easier. And they did. And that guy was Ben Arbuckle. But I wonder if there is a suitable alternative. Like, for instance, in this conversation, is there somebody that is closer to Ben Arbuckle, if you will, in this parallel than Wes Goodwin? Is Wes Goodwin your Ben Arbuckle? Because, like, if Wes Goodwin is your Ben Arbuckle, that's all fine and well. He knows BV's defense and all that, and there's familiarity there. But he's had far less success.
I'll give you who could be the defensive side of the Ben Arbuckle equation in college football, and it might be the dude that just walked out the door in terms of age and potential skill. That's what that just made me think of.
Yeah, Reform Sooner says, won't a big-time DC want to run his own defense? Yes. You'd think so. And from what I understand, this is a DC that is big-time enough that Oklahoma would acquiesce to that.
I mean, at some point, if you're trying to bring in that level of coordinator, you will have to there will have to be some concessions.
Yeah, well, and look, when you're coaching for your job, there's always going to be some concessions.
That too.
Right? You're going to have to be flexible. You're going to have to explore paths that you might not otherwise have explored.
Especially with your staff.
When your back is against the wall, you're going to do things you probably wouldn't otherwise do. And that's likely a good thing. That's a good thing. To deviate from your philosophies and principles, yeah, it can be dangerous, but you're already in a dangerous spot. So it's more of a question of what do you have to lose?
CD from Hockley. So Wink Martindale, come on down. How would you like Wink Martindale?
Wink Martindale. Hadn't he never coached collegiately before this past year at Michigan?
Correct, because he was with the Ravens all those years and then went to the Giants.
Pig Rich in OKC says Phil Parker, Iowa. If anybody could coax Phil Parker away from Iowa, that would be an amazing hire. Because Phil Parker is a really good defensive coordinator.
He is. He also is tied at the hip with Kirk Ferentz.
And that's what's enabled Kirk Ferentz to have such longevity at Iowa. It's not all due to him. It's certainly due in large part to Phil Parker as well, because Iowa is a fantastic defensive program, which not a lot of people realize because they don't win a ton of games. It's not they don't win. They do. They win 8 or 9 every single year. But the ceiling for that program under Kirk Ferentz has been a out-of-nowhere 12-0 regular season in 2015 that culminated in a spot in the Big Ten championship game and what was essentially a play-in college football playoff matchup with Michigan State that they lost 16-13 in the closing seconds on a touchdown run from L.J. Scott. So that's as close as Iowa has come to really breaking through. They've had some really, really good defenses these last few years. But they've had arguably the worst offense in an overall sense in the entire Power Four.
In terms of where they sit in the Big Ten, they are the Oklahoma State of the Big Ten.
That's very true. That's very true.
Occasionally they'll have that one good year where they're this close to making the playoff and then don't. In the case for Oklahoma State, it was the Big 12 championship a couple of years ago against Baylor.
All right, folks, we're overdue for a quick timeout. Let's take one here. Let's come back, and we will wrap up Locked In with one final segment. Keep firing away on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, 405-651-3439, 651-3439. You're listening to The Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Stay here.
Hornsdown Apple Pie Liquor is not your grandma's apple pie unless your grandma was a moonshiner with a PhD in flavor. This all-natural, 6-time distilled spirit is sure to light up any party, tailgate, or special occasion. Whether toasting a touchdown or yelling at the ums because Spike was safe, Hornsdown Apple Pie is the perfect drink for celebrating the highs and lows of life in Oklahoma. Hornsdown celebrates all of you who cheer from the berm, tailgate, on Lindsay Street, and wreak havoc on social media. You can find our red bottle at your local liquor store or search for your closest location at drinkhornsdown.com.
This event cannot be missed, and tickets are on sale now. Visit SproutsCollegiateQuad.com to experience all the gymnastics action.
When you're sick, you need to be seen by a health professional today, not next week. Norman Regional Urgent Care is here for you from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Open 7 days a week at Porter Health Village in Norman and Monday through Friday in Westmore and Goldsby. No appointment needed, just walk right in. Whether it's a sudden illness or a minor injury, Norman Regional Urgent Care is ready to get you back on your feet today, not next week.
Hey, it's Mike Steely here for Cavens Group. Has it ever happened to you? You get home from the weekend, you arrive back at work on Monday, and your office is full of water. Not good. Now we're in that time of the year where pipes or sprinkler lines will freeze, and this can lead to a ton of damage to your home or business. Plus, if it's not cleaned up properly, that can lead to even more costly repairs in the future. Call Cavens Group today at 405-573-3048 or visit cavensgroup.com.
Hey, wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You know, you could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind, like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest. Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. To learn your risk, take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
When I grow up, I want to be a teacher.
Because when I'm a teacher, I can help kids to learn and chase their dreams.
PI, a defect of the immune system, affects millions of children. Early and accurate diagnosis and treatment give children like Sam a chance to achieve their dreams.
It takes a lot of caring teachers to make school fun. It took a lot of caring people to keep my dream alive. And now, because of them, I can be head of the class.
For more information, visit the Jeffrey Modell Foundation at info4pi.org.
For decades, Moore Norman Tech has been training skilled and dedicated individuals, giving clear career paths to hundreds of graduates a year. These passionate individuals are the heartbeat of the Oklahoma workforce, serving thousands of companies that fuel this state's economy. Individuals like you. Here's to the next generation of entrepreneurs, craftsmen, and go-getters who will shape the future of this state. Oklahoma is powered by Career Tech.
Are you in need of a dependable electrical contractor and not sure where to start? Look no further than Wade Electric. In December and January, Wade Electric offers up to 30% savings on accent lighting, panel changes, and other select services. Take advantage of the opportunity to save big on much-needed upgrades to your home or business. Let Wade Electric help you save by calling 405-329-1940 today.
Schumacher Law Group, when experience matters. Tracy Schumacher is a former prosecutor and former district judge. Whether it's a probate challenge, criminal charges, or contentious divorce proceedings, experience matters. The attorneys at Schumacher Law Group provide compassionate, knowledgeable advice, all while fighting for your best interests. Find Schumacher Law Group online at lawgroupok.com or call 405-701-1882. Hometown lawyers ready to fight for you when experience matters.
It is locked in here on The Ref. Oklahoma Sooner fans, Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton here with you for one final segment before we turn things over to Tyler and Ted at the top of the 3 o'clock hour with The Rush. 405-651-3439 is how you can chime in via the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. This hour brought to you by Dorsey Jones Buick GMC in El Reno. Buicks and GMCs, of course, some of the best trucks and SUVs on the road, and Dorsey Jones' low-pressure environment creates an enjoyable experience for everyone. Their sales staff is knowledgeable and eager to assist you before and after the buying process. All that and incredible pricing as well out in El Reno at Dorsey Jones Buick GMC. A 308 listener on the text line, I think it brings up a good and an interesting question. How is it helpful to have players learn an all-new defense when you finally have really great players on defense who have stuck around and learned this defense for 2 or 3 years? And I guess my response to that would be that, and I'd love for you to weigh in on this as well, Grayson, but as I see it, there's not any defense that's going to be more difficult to learn than Brent Venables' defense. Any other defense you're learning, if you've had to learn Venables' scheme, you'll actually probably have a comparatively easy time learning any other defensive scheme. Now, and I'm not exactly sure whether this defensive coordinator that we've discussed, this big name, if Oklahoma were to pull off this hire, if he would just have free reign to call whatever he wants, or if they would maybe try to marry some of Venables' concepts with that DC's concepts and create a bit of a new twist on the defense that DC planned to run or that Venables has been running. But if you've learned Brent Venables' defense, and this has been backed up by what his players and former players have said, if you can learn that defense, you can learn any defense. And so that's not really something I worry about.
No. I'm with you on that one. Now, I will say this, does that bring up some kind of mental fatigue when it comes to the players in terms of the fact that it has taken this unit 2 years to really get good at this defense? The first year of Brent Venables' tenure here, the defense was not good. The second year, it showed signs of life, and then this year, we all know what the story was in 2024. So you've developed this unit, and it's had to bake and marinate to really get good. Mm-hmm. Do you want to do that again with a particular defense? Now, some defensive coordinators, I don't think that would be an issue. Some I do. And a lot of the different ways, one of the different ways that different defensive coordinators differentiate their schemes is how they use that fifth defensive back. Brent uses it in one way with the cheetah position. There are some other guys who like to play 3 safeties, and you'll literally see 3 safeties lining up along the back end of the defense, whereas that's not the case here with Oklahoma. So it's different, but it's not harder. And it's, do you want those guys to learn a whole nother one after they're finally seeing the fruits of learning this one?
Let me ask this question, not rhetorical either. Why did Oklahoma's defense suck in 2022? Why did they struggle so much? Was it because they were learning Brent Venables' scheme? Or I should say, was it primarily because they were still learning Brent Venables' scheme? Or was it primarily because they just didn't have very many good football players on that roster? And to me, that's where you draw the distinction this time around because, for instance, your starting defensive tackles in 2022 were Jalen Redmond and Jeffrey Johnson. In 2025, they're going to be Dominic Williams and Grayson Halton and or Jaden Jackson. Correct. Your starting linebackers in 2022 were Danny Stutzman. Okay, good player. Deshaun White and David Agwebu. Your starting linebackers in 2025, and you want to loop in Cheetah here, probably, Kendall Dolby and or Kendall Daniels.
Yes.
Kip Lewis and, let's say, Kobe McKenzie. Or Samuel Masigo, if you prefer.
Mm-hmm.
You're starting cornerbacks in 2022. You remember Trey Morrison? Exactly. I can't even remember. It was Jaden Davis. Jaden Davis opened that season as a starter for Oklahoma at cornerback. He was the guy that C.J. Colden supplanted by season's end. Trey Morrison was a starting safety, as I recall.
Uh-huh.
Your back end, your secondary in 2025 is going to consist of Gentry Williams, Eli Bowen, Billy Bowman, and Robert Spears-Jennings. What I'm getting at is that it might be less of an issue to learn a new defensive scheme just based solely on the fact that your players are a lot better this time around than they were 3 years ago.
That's a good point. I mean, 3 years ago when Venables first took over, Woody Washington was playing primarily outside.
That's right. Yeah, he was the other starting quarterback. It was Woody Washington and Jaden Davis that were your starting cornerbacks.
And I'll make your point even better for you. I don't even know who the hell Jalen Davis is.
He did get drafted, which is more than you can say for a lot of the other guys.
I'll tell you who else got drafted off that defense was Redmond.
He didn't actually. He didn't get drafted,
right.
but he's worked his way up. He's starting for the Vikings right now.
He is.
Props to Jalen Redmond. Jaden Davis got drafted in the 7th round this past year.
Did he
after
really?
spending a season at Miami. Yeah. Got drafted in the 7th round. I don't know. I've lost track of him. I don't know if he made the Cardinals roster or the practice squad or – you know what? Let me find out. I'm going to look him up. Jaden Davis.
But your point is well taken. If you go back to 2022, you could probably say it was 65-35, not great players and learning a new scheme.
Yeah.
One of those is going to be eliminated this year.
He is on the Cardinals practice squad right now. That's where Jaden Davis is at. Mr. Sooner 2001 on the YouTube chat says Wikipedia has Phil Parker's salary at $1.9 million. Yeah, he is paid handsomely for his work. And Patrick says, and in 2022, the players were busting all the time. Pause.
Big pause.
And they were not as athletic. Yeah, exactly. And that's my point right there, Patrick, is that in 2025, you've got a bunch of excellent football players on the defensive side of the ball that should be far more adaptable to a new defensive scheme. And moreover, it should be less of an issue if it takes them time to learn it, just because their talent is going to account for some things. It's going to account for some of the bumps in the road that may come with that transition. And again, I don't think there would be many of them. If you're going from Brent Venables' defense to the defense of another top-tier coordinator that runs a less complex scheme, because pretty much any scheme is less complex than Brent Venables, I don't really worry about that aspect of things. Frisco Sooner says, how about this for a theory, Parker and Grayson? What if BV made a decision to change into a more player-friendly system? What I mean by that is now with the portal, maybe he feels like he will not have the bulk of his recruits for 3 to 4 years, and he knows how hard that defense is to learn. That's interesting. And I like that take a lot, Frisco Sooner, because, for instance, we go back to fall camp this year. There were guys that had been around for all 3 years of the Venables regime saying, man, I'm finally starting to feel like I have a handle on BV's defense and all of the complexities and nuances within it. And that's great, but how many football players these days are sticking around at the same institution for 3+ years, Grayson?
That doesn't really happen.
You get lucky if that number's 50%, I think.
Yeah.
And so is there merit in maybe adapting your scheme to something that's a little bit easier to digest and just trusting the excellent football players and excellent athletes that you recruit to go and execute it at a high level?
And to that point, bringing in versatile players too, like a Kendall Daniels, who can play a linebacker, who can play a safety, who can play a cheetah. You know, bringing in guys who can morph into different systems using their football IQ and, you know, their abilities and their physique. I think that also is a welcome strategy too. So I think they're going about this the right way. They're going about this in a way that should make you think something positive as well.
Santa John asking the question that's 2 steps down the road, which is, if BV hires this super DC, who will run his defense when he leaves for the next opportunity? I don't know what the answer to your question would be, Santa John, and frankly, I don't think that's a question that is on the minds of any of the decision makers at OU right now, because what you're trying to do is win in 2025. Because for this staff, there is no 2026 if you don't win in 2025. It's about winning now.
Yeah.
That's what it has to be about.
Yoda on the text line, don't forget in 2022, DJ Graham.
Oh, man, that's right.
He was an adventure.
Like, you go back and look at it now, and you're like, wow. We didn't all think this at the time, but if you go back in retrospect and look at that 2022 defense, you're like, dang, they might have been lucky to win the 6 games that they did, even in the Big 12.
Was current Bronco DeLaren Turner Yell on that team too?
No,
Or did he come out in 21? Okay.
He came out in 21. BV tried to talk him into coming back for 2022. He thought he would test really well, decided to take a chance, make the jump to the draft. He did test really well.
He did.
Wound up a 4th-round selection. He's been recovering from a knee injury for the last year or so, but excited to see when he gets back on the field. He's an awesome dude. One of my very good friends to this day. Yeah.
Oh, good stuff.
Yeah, love DTY.
Yoda also said, and you said Billy Bowman. Did you mean Peyton Bowen?
I did mean Peyton Bowen Yoda. I'm sorry. All too easy to get those two mentally switched around there. But yes, Peyton Bowen and Robert Spears-Jennings would be projected as your starting safeties. Jeremy from Memphis says, has BV ever coached a number 1 ranked defense? Yes, on multiple occasions he did at Clemson. Well, a number 1, you kind of have to define your terms. When you say number 1, you mean number 1 scoring defense, number 1 defense in terms of yardage allowed, number 1 defense as far as takeaways. There are many different ways that you can gauge that, but once Brent Venables had been at Clemson for 3-4 years and he had all his dudes in the system and they all knew his scheme, Clemson perennially had one of the best defenses in the country for the remainder of the time that he was there.
Yeah.
And that's why he was so highly regarded as a potential head coach. I mean, he got interviews, he got offers. He talked about it the day that he took the OU job, that he had been offered the job at Auburn and chose to turn it down because he didn't really like the alignment of that program, which in hindsight, good call by him because that's a tough place to win football games, and it's tough for any coach to stick long term. Sean says, what if it's all just a shiny object and OU is just waiting for a 5 p.m. Friday news dump to announce Brandon Hall? If Brandon Hall is your next defensive coordinator, Sean, 2 things here. One, I actually really like that. I don't hate that at all. I really, really like that. I think Brandon Hall is an awesome defensive mind. He's been around. He knows what it's about. He can call BV's defense. I would love that move if they made it. I felt like, I would have been content if they just made the move right off the bat. But, as I understand it, there was some reticence on Brandon Hall's part, which is understandable. He's done good work with the safety room, and at the end of the day, do you want to be the guy on which it all falls if this thing goes to crap in 2025? And so, as I understand it, if it had to be Brandon Hall for that job, he'd take it. But if it doesn't have to be Brandon Hall, he's perfectly content coaching safeties. And as far as the 5 p.m. Friday news dump thing, I don't think that's where this is headed because at this point, if it's Brandon Hall, more than one thing went wrong in the process. And OU missed on more than one candidate. So that's where things stand. Hopefully that brings you all up to speed. That's a wrap for today's installment of Locked In. That is Grayson Singleton. I am Parker Thune. Thank you all for tuning in today and every day. We appreciate you immensely. The Rush is coming up next with Tyler and Ted. Keep it right here on The Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
Football. You love it. We love it. You live it. We live it. You need it. We got it. Nobody covers college football better. The Rush. Right here on the Ref Sports Radio Network.